All right, so let's go. I need to filter this thing here. Let's bring up British cruisers here, and I'll show you Belfast 43. All right, so I've done a video on this. It's over on my YouTube channel. That gets into all of the little sundry details. All right, so short version is this: the big differences between Belfast, the Tier 7 version that you can't buy anymore, and Belfast 43 are, of course, Belfast 43 represents an earlier war iteration of the ship, so she has less AA. She still has her torpedoes. She has a triple on each side of the ship, much like Fiji. All right, she does have her smoke plus radar combo, and she has hydro. However, this is no longer like traditional smoke, like Belfast at Tier 7. This is the short duration smoke like you find in the British destroyer line. Okay, she has 5 of them, which is good. It's very, very common you'll use all of these, right? But it's nice because it gives her a very hit and run kind of play style. You'll maybe take a little more aggressive push into somewhere, pop a radar, push the destroyers away, maybe get a kill, smoke up, farm some damage for a bit, then you need to be looking for someplace else to be. Because she's in Tier 8, you'll always be on the lookout for radar cruisers that can suss you out for those little few seconds you sit chilling and smoke, and so on. She does a British cruiser, so she gets the British cruiser acceleration and handling. According to Little White Mouse, she does not retain her speed and turns the way most British cruisers do, so she will handle a little different. It's not catastrophic, but I will point out that if you drive enough British cruiser, you will notice the difference. The other big thing I want to point out, and this was something that Denarmo was talking about over on the CC Discord, and I had completely missed this, so huge props to him for catching this, okay? And I want to point this out. All right. If you remember, okay, they changed how 6-inch gun penetration worked based on the tier of the ship. All right, for example, Helena here, of course, my captain has IFHE, so with IFHE, he can pin 31 millimeters of armor at Tier 7. You go to Cleveland, we're at 1 level up the tech tree, same gun, still have IFHE, now I can pin 37 millimeters of armor. Belfast and Belfast 43 have the same difference between the two, okay? If I pull up Belfast with this has 25 millimeters of base penetration. That means when you put IFHE on her, that'll bump up to 30 or 31 millimeters. That means she cannot pin 32 millimeters of armor. When she's down tiered, when she's bottom tier, that is no bueno, right? That means that there's a lot of things that she will not full pen the way she used to back in the day. Belfast 43, by virtue of being Tier 8, she gets the higher penetration values. With IFHE here, you see she pins 37 millimeters of armor. So there's quite a number of heavy cruisers and battleships, and I think every light cruiser in her tier bracket, she will get full pins on the HE. Also, her per shell HE damage is higher. So her overall DPM is lower because of that reload gimp, right? Belfast 43 reloads 10.5 seconds. Belfast reloads in 7.5. However, individually, Belfast 43 shells hit harder. So her alpha strike is higher. That initial wave, that initial impact is a heavier hit, okay? But she can't do it as often, so her sustained damage is lower. But that penetration difference, you will notice the difference. Trust me, if you play both ships and you find yourself kind of constantly bottom tiered, you'll notice the difference. Belfast 43, unlike Cleveland, of course, does not have any meaningful AA, especially against a Tier 10 carrier, so she's very weak in that department. And as Toxic points out in chat, her Tier 7 shells, her Tier 7 AP shells were not changed. These are not, just like Belfast, these are not the special British short fuse AP shells. These are standard AP shells, but now they're on the longer reload. So you're even disincentivized even further from using the AP on Belfast 43. And original Belfast doesn't use her AP very often anyway, right? Occasionally in engagement with a light cruiser, you break it out. But I mean, at this ship, with a 10.5 second reload, you're not going to be using it a whole lot. All right, so let's take this thing out and show you how she plays. Henri Catherine, I had a decent game in her 10 days ago, I want to say. I won't say it's the best ship, because it's not, but I mean, it's a ship. Henri, I feel like, got kicked in the nuts a little too hard with the Nerf bat, and I think they've tried to claw some of that back, but I'm not sure they're quite there yet. My biggest complaint about Henri is I've never felt like the guns are worth all the other things you give up, right? The hull is huge. It eats pins from all kinds of crazy angles. Yes, you have French space armor, but I mean, you know, there's nothing wrong with the guns per se, but I feel like they charge you too much for the 240 millimeters.
Hands to action stations.
seems appropriate that we've got the Jingles captain for an HMS Belfast game. I think I'll let it ride this game. All right, we got an Edinburgh. Mahan's going to A. Let's go with him. Benson, Mahan, Shiratsuyu, Anchorage, Albemarle, Fiji. All right, so we have myself. I have radar. The Edinburgh might have radar. We don't know. Anchorage, Albemarle, Fiji. Okay, no planes, and they don't have a Missouri. We have, okay, so we have at least 2 radars. Okay. All right, this is not terrible matchmaking. We can probably do something good with this. Edinburgh will also have smoke. He'll have longer duration smoke. Well, let me phrase that. He's either radar, which is useful, or smoke, which is also useful, so he can pick one. You're welcome, Mark. Nolo, that's a great comparison. That's a great comparison. You know, the American battleship split that they just introduced, right? You pay, quote unquote, a super heavy price for 3 extra barrels at Tier 8 and Tier 9, because those barrels now reload, you know, 1/3 slower. So your overall DPM is not any higher, but you take all kinds of other various and sundry penalties, right? Your hull is questionable, very soft, let's say, like a French battleship. You have the crazy reload penalty. The handling, those ships are fat, really fat. So, I mean, there's a... Henri suffers, I think, from some of that problem, right? She overpays to move from 203mm guns to 240mm guns. All right, Mahan, I need you to get in the cap circle because I don't know who's there that quickly. Really? Really? Oh, Riri. Luckily, our Mahan is beating the crap out of this enemy Mahan, who's about to ground himself. Like a dummy! I keep expecting him to smoke, but he hasn't done it yet. I find this puzzling. Go away. Why is he not smoked? What is he, AFK or something? He's dead. That's weird, man. That's a weird... He beached himself and then never once smoked. Super odd. Okay, we've got a lot of ships here. We've got to push through A quickly. Cheers, my dears. I'm not sure I'm ever going to be able to not laugh at Jingles as a captain. That's just really funny. All right, DBF, have a good one, man. Thanks for tuning in. All stations, concentrate fire on the target. Yeah, let me try and get him in radar range so he can't escape so easily. It's almost there.
Enemy submarine sighted.
All stations reporting the position of a strategic target. Affirmative.
It's gonna kill him. Nope, he's dead already. That works for me too.
Well done, everyone. Now let's get back for some tea and medals.
Tea and medals. All right. There you go.
Enemy battleship sighted. Enemy battleship detected. Enemy battleship sighted.
Smoke generator started.
There we go. That feels good.
Smoke screen set.
Anchorage looks like he's trying to reverse. Can't have that. That's not okay.
Enemy battleship sighted.
Yeah, he's trying to reverse. Some nice dispersion there. I actually landed all 12 shells in that salvo. Did you see that?
Actually win this.
Well, you may be right, Jingles. Alright, smoke is expiring. Time to get going again.
All stations, concentrate fire on the target.
CC Belfast is there's a lot of, you know, stop, shoot for a little while, smoke, sit and smoke, smoke expires, keep moving, right? Like there's a lot of hit and run in this ship, and I actually kind of like it. It gives her, especially with that acceleration and her ability to reposition, it gives her a little more she's a little dynamic. She's a little more dynamic than a Cleveland, right? In my opinion, anyway. She's a superb destroyer hunter. No matter what tier bracket she's dealing with, she's a really, really good destroyer hunter. She's got all the tools for it, right? You can't outspot the thing if you're a destroyer, that she can't push the radar button and spot you back. She's got the sonar to avoid torpedoes, the short duration smoke. It's not, obviously, we saw last game, does not make her invulnerable,
Set a smoke screen.
but it does help her avoid certain uncomfortable situations when she finds herself under too many battleship guns, for example. This game's going to be over super quick, though. They've only got the Shira left. I'm not sure where he is. Just getting a target in range is a challenge right now. I'll take a shot at this Georgia, but... It kind of is, Nolo. It's still a British cruiser, right? So it doesn't stop on a dime. You got to remember that, right? But, I mean, it is a nice kind of, well, oops, I wish I hadn't found myself here kind of button. Come on. Line on him right. There we go. He's, like, barely moving.
Enemy cruiser sighted.
Go, a little bit of fire. Fire! Yeah, fire!
Well played, chaps.
We're winning. Try not to do anything stupid.
It's good advice, Jingles. George is out. I should try the AP here, huh?
Try not to do anything stupid.
Yeah, now would be a good time for the AP, I think.
All stations provide fire support.
So, AP, very functional.
Allied battleship.
Work. That's Jingles, all right.
Do anything stupid.
That's Jingles, all right. Works like a charm. All right, I'm going to be face spotting this Shira on the surface in a moment. I'm going to take this shot. I'm being far too aggressive because I'm about to be in very close combat with a Massachusetts, which is not a comfortable place to be if you're me. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to smoke. There we go.
Main turret critically damaged.
Yeah, I know. All right, what's my detection in smoke? 5-3.
screen
So I can fire for a little bit. Eventually, he will get too close to me, and I'll have to do something a little different. Oh, he's turning out. Okay. Torps aren't going anywhere. That's fine. We're going to get rid of him. It's good enough for me. Go away, you big bully. And we win. There we go. Fire. Yeah. Well, I mean, you used Belfast AP in the right situation. The trick is that with Belfast, Belfast is a much faster reload, so you're more likely to find yourself in a situation where Belfast's AP is more useful simply by the virtue of the fact that you have 30% faster reload over Belfast 43, right? Waiting almost 11 seconds for your AP shells to come back for 6-inch guns, you're not going to find that being worth it very often. So, I mean, it's going to, just like original Belfast, learning when to swap between HE and AP is kind of one of the tricks of playing the ship. But the AP situations are very corner case, right? But yeah, she's not a bad ship, honestly. Is she worth $45? I don't know. She's different than a Cleveland, right? From a firepower perspective, straight up firepower perspective, the Cleveland is better, right? More guns, well, same number of guns, but faster reload. Okay, much faster reload. Almost 50% faster reload. So the Cleveland is far better if you want DPM. Cleveland also brings more utility. You have radar and hydro and defensive fire and a stronger AA suite to begin with. Cleveland is a little more detectable. Obviously doesn't have the smoke. I look at Belfast 43 and what I see is a ship that has some niches. I mean, she's not going to be unfun to play. She's going to be really good in like Tier 8 rank season as an example, right? Because she's another radar cruiser. She's, I mean, it's the same reason that Baltimore and Cleveland and Radar Edinburgh, I love Radar Edinburgh, are popular in Tier 8 competitive modes, right? Belfast 43 is going to fit in there as well because she does have some utility. The HE shells, plus the radar, plus the smoke, plus the torpedoes, plus the hydro, all of those things combined give her more utility than some of the other cruisers in that bracket, right? So, I mean, she's not bad. I'm just excited that they've managed to find a ship that I feel like is pretty well balanced, right? This thing is not horribly broken. The short duration smoke really does help bring it back into balance a little bit. Yeah, she can sit in smoke and fire her HE shells, but she fires them slower, and the smoke has a short duration. I think the smoke is only 40 seconds. Is that right? 40 seconds? 40 seconds. So, like, from the time you push the smoke button, it has a 15-second deployment and a 40-second duration. I think you're going to get maybe 4 salvos out of that smoke. Maybe 5, depending on how the timing works out. It's not going to be a lot. Whereas a regular Belfast with this smoke would get probably more like 8 or 9 salvos, right? Because of how much faster she reloads every 7.5 seconds. So yeah, there is a noteworthy difference there. I like her. I mean, I don't know that I'm going to play this ship a lot. Like, I'm not going to reach her every time, but I like the fact that they've managed to craft a version of Belfast that is probably the kind of ship that they can just leave in the shop and continue to sell, right? And finally be able to start, having one of the most iconic museum ships in the world back in the game available for sale, where she ought to be.